Welcome guys to a whole new series, and in this series we're going to cover email forensics. I'm going to show you guys how to analyze any suspicious email that you may receive in your inbox, and with a particular focus on Gmail. So in this case scenario, you might see hackers deploy suspicious emails targeting individuals and businesses, and in some of these emails they can insert suspicious URLs that may be used as phishing pages in order to steal your credentials, or in other cases they may also deploy malware as attachments in Word documents, PDF documents, or any other media file. So guys, I'm going to show you how to extract some of these emails, analyze them, check some of the headers, analyze the IP addresses from the SMTP servers, analyze some of the location details that are related to the IP addresses that are extracted. I'm going to show you guys how to verify DMARC and DKIM signatures. I'll explain that in a bit. And I'll also show you guys how to verify the authenticity of an email that is coming from a credible source. So this video is useful for guys who want to analyze and check if they've received any suspicious email. So to begin with, I'm going to show you guys some of the logged emails that were deemed suspicious. And in most cases, they normally land in spam. But in some cases, if threat actors are savvy enough to bypass some of the spam detection filters in most of these email platforms, then it's something that they can bypass, and the emails may land in inbox. But for demonstration purposes, we're going to cover some of the emails that were logged and dropped in spam. So one of the email that we're going to analyze is this specific email that is purported to be coming from Deeper Network support team. And as you can see guys, if you open this email, it's already logged as spam, and we have a button over here. So in most cases, like I said before, this button may be a URL that is redirecting you to a fake login page. In other cases, hackers may deploy malware, and the malware might execute once you click this button and automatically download. In other cases, they may also embed some of these malicious payloads in websites, and once you load some of these websites, then the payloads might infect your system. So there are various ways that these attackers normally deploy to target individuals and extract the information that they need. So first things first, in forensic analysis, you're supposed to maintain clear evidence, and in this case, we're going to extract this email as an EML file so that we can have a backup of this suspicious email. So we're doing it from Gmail. What you'll do is click on this three-dotted button, and we'll download the message as an EML file. So let's begin by analyzing some of the parts of an email. So an email consists of a message header, the email body, which contains the specific message that is addressed to the end recipient, and we also have the email signature. So if you want to check the message header details, you can click on the drop down section over here, and the first option that we see is the from. So from specifies the originating email address that this message is coming from. In the reply to section contains the email that all replies will be sent to. So in our case, if we send any reply, then it will be sent to this specific address. we have the to section that contains the recipient's email address or the email address that this specific message body is addressed to. In most cases, you might notice that the to section does not contain the recipient address. Then in a date section, we have the specific date that this email was sent and the time. We have the subject. Then we have the signing details by the mail delivery agent. So you guys might ask yourselves how email communication normally works. So in most cases, we have the mail user agent, the mail delivery agent, the mail transfer agent, and the SMTP server. So the email originates from the mail user agent, and just for a simple explanation, the mail user agent is the specific endpoint application that the user interacts with when sending some of these emails. So for this example, our mail user agent is Gmail, and there are other mail user agents out there like Outlook, there is Thunderbird, and so on and so forth. So the mail user agent is responsible for taking any queries from the end user, and once the end user types that specific email, then the mail user agent transfers that information to the mail transfer agent. So the mail transfer agent is the one that is primarily responsible for decrypting some of the header information. And guys, just to give you a bit of information on that, is that most emails, once they are sent to the end user, it's normally encrypted using a specific algorithm that is given in the DKIM signature. I'll show you guys how to analyze DKIM signatures, determine some of the encryption algorithm used to encrypt some of the body details. So once the mail user agent, which is Gmail, transfers this information to the mail transfer agent, then based on the receiving headers, it will determine where this specific message is supposed to go to. Then the email hops to the mail delivery agent, which is responsible for receiving the specific information that is relayed from the mail transfer agent. So remember guys, we have the mail user agent, the mail transfer agent, and the mail delivery agent. So the mail delivery agent, as explained, it's the one that is responsible for delivering the email message from the MTA. So the SMTP server is the protocol that is normally used so that this server can relay information that is sent from the original, which is the originating email address. In our case, our originating email address is specified in the from section, and what it normally does is it will send this specific email to a valid email address. So SMTP, as explained, is the one that addresses this information to the specified recipient's email address. So we have the message body. Remember guys, like I said before, email has three parts. We have the message header, we have the message body, and in this case it's giving false information that the targeted user has received rewards, and we have a button over here. We're not quite sure what this button has. It might be a link, it might also be an attachment or a malicious payload that is embedded in our website. Then we have the signature, and the signature in most cases gives details about the identity of the original sender, and hackers might utilize some of these common email signatures to fool users so that they can see that this email is coming from a credible source. So remember guys, we've already extracted the EML file, and before we proceed to analyze the email header, what we'll do is we'll analyze our EML file using SysTools EML Viewer. Let's begin by analyzing the extracted EML file from the suspicious email from Deeper Network. So we're going to start with analyzing the message header. In the first section, you can see the specific recipient's email address that this email is delivered to, which is my email address. We have the timestamps for the receiving date. So in our case, you can see that the date is on 24th of August. If we drop down over here, we can see the message header details. We have the subject, we have the date, the from section, we've already discussed this, the message ID. So in most cases, the message ID is a very unique ID that is associated with this specific message, and it's generated by the mail transfer agent in order to verify the authenticity of emails. So it's a globally unique ID that is linked to most email messages, and in the end it's also reflected by the domain name. So the first suspicious flag that we see over here is the domain name that is used is different from Deeper Network. So just to confirm, we're going to check the domains that are normally used by Deeper Network. So in order to check the domains that are normally used by Deeper Network, we'll have to conduct a whois search and see some of the domains and subdomains that are used by Deeper Network. So I did a search on Deeper Network, and this specific domain is a domain that is associated with a legitimate Deeper Network platform. And what we'll do is we'll copy this domain, then we'll do a whois lookup so that we can see some of the subdomains and the IP addresses that are linked to this specific domain. We'll also get details of the name servers that are used and other details. So do a search on the platform called Droptex. And as you can see, guys, we have a couple of MX records, name server records that are linked to a domain. We also have the A records, and over here, if you can see, guys, we have the list of the mail servers that are used. So this is very important in trying to verify the authenticity of our email. So we have 5 of them, and just to cross check, we'll go back to SysTools EML Viewer, and as you can see, guys, close to the message ID, which, like I explained before, it's a unique identifier of an email message that is relayed to the mail transfer agent. We can see that this email is originating from bling.com. So this is our first suspicious flag that this email is already spoofed. So for the second section, we can see we have the subject over here. So the subject, like I said before, displays the subject that is provided by the sender. We have the MIME. So this one is using version 1.0, and MIME stands for multi-purpose internet mail extension, and it's a feature that allows the sender to insert media files like document attachments, videos, images, and audio. So next we have the receiving headers, and as you can see, we have the first receiving header, and the receiving header normally contains the details about the mail servers that this email is relayed to, and in most cases the number of mail servers that this email transits to before it's delivered to the end user on the mail user agent. The receiving header gives details on the number of hops this email makes before it's delivered to the end user inbox. So if we see our analysis below, you can see we have a couple of receiving headers. So the first receiving header is already suspicious. Remember, we analyzed some of the mail servers that originate from deeper network, and we've seen some of the mail servers, and Bling.com is not related to the listed mail servers, so that is also suspicious. And we have an IP address over here which we'll analyze later. So for the next section, we have the received SPF. So for those of you guys who don't know what SPF is, SPF stands for the Sender Policy Framework, and it's normally used as an email authentication mechanisms and allows the receiving mail server to check if the sending server is authorized to send emails on behalf of the domain. So if the SPF is set to pass, this means that the sending IP was listed in the domain's SPF as a legitimate sender. And as you can see, the domain that is used over here is google.com, which is a legitimate sender. But remember guys, this message is received from Bling.com, which was our first receiving header. And this technique is normally used by hackers to spoof the transfer of these specific email messages in between the mail transfer agents, so that it may look and may seem that it's coming from a credible source. And in this case, google.com, which acts as a permitted sender in order to land on the email's inbox. So we have the same designated IP over here, which is linked to the first IP of our receiving header. Now if you see guys, we have the received SPF and it's set to pass. So when it's set to pass, it means that the sending IP was listed in the domain's SPF as a legitimate sender. If it's set to fail, then the IP wasn't listed and the server wasn't authorized to send email on behalf of the legitimate sender. So we have our DKIM signatures over here, and DKIM signature, which stands for Domain Keys Identified Email, is an authentication mechanism that is used by emails to safeguard both the sender and the recipient, and it normally uses public cryptographic keys in order to detect and prevent delivery of any suspicious emails. It also tries and ensures that most of the content is not altered when the data is in transit between various mail delivery agents and mail transfer agents. And for this case, we're going to start analyzing our DKIM signature, and as you can see, it's using version 1. The encryption algorithm that is used is RSA SHA-256. We have our domain over here, which is bling.com. We've already seen that this is not a legitimate domain that comes from deeper network. Then S stands for the sender. So in our case, we have S for the sender, then we have BH over here. So this is the hash value for the body that is used according to the specific cryptographic hashing algorithm that is specified. In our case, it's encoded in base 64. Then H contains the subject details, the date, from, reply to section which is specified in our email message header. Then you have the B section over here, which gives you the DKIM signature that is calculated according to the header field that is provided over here. So we're going to check if the DKIM signatures are going to pass by analyzing this specific email in some of the tools that I'll show you. So just give you a summary on some of the flags that we've gotten. So the first mismatch that we got is from the return path, and it's originating from senderbling.com, which is different from our case. The sender return path that is used by Deeper Network. If we check the from section, we can see that it's coming from Deeper Network support, but we can see that this specific address that is used by Deeper Network support is not the actual address that is used by Deeper Network. So just to confirm, guys, we're going to verify the address. So the address that we got over here is dpr@shop.deepernetwork.com, but if you check the legitimate Deeper Network website, we can see some of the emails that Deeper Network uses, which is very different from the email that is used in our suspicious email. We've checked the DKIM signatures, and we've seen that the DKIM signatures and the SPF are set to pass. And in this case, it's normally set to pass because this email was sent via bling.com, which is a legitimate email infrastructure. So again, you're seeing hackers using legitimate email infrastructures to deliver these suspicious emails. But then again, if you're not careful to check some of the domains that are associated with these legitimate email infrastructures, then you may fall victim into some of these attacks. Then we've checked the receive chain, and we've seen some of the receive chains over here and the domains that are associated with it. And again, it's using bling.com. Then we have the subject section over here, which gives the user a fake withdrawal notice, most likely in order to fool the user into believing that they've received a reward. And hackers normally deploy this method in order to fool victims into clicking the buttons. Then you have the message header, and the mailer that is used is PHP mailer 6.0.7, which is a common ERP that is used to deliver emails. So then again, they're using bling.com and PHP XMailer to deliver these email and make them seem that they're coming from a reputable source. So let's check and see some of the attachments that are in a suspicious email. And if you remember, guys, if you read the message from this specific email, it fools the user into believing that they have been rewarded specific credits to the account. So we'll come to that once we start analyzing some of our attachments over here, and how some of these attachments are socially engineered to fool victims into clicking the suspicious links. So if we check the attachment section, so the tool that we're using again is SysTools EML Viewer. and what we're doing is we are analyzing the extracted EML file from a suspicious email. And as you can see, guys, we have two attachments over here. You have the XML file and a PDF file. So we'll start by analyzing our XML file. So for the XML file, we can see that it's using a standard XML header, and it tells the parser that this file is an XML using version 1.0 and encoded using UTF-8. So for the second line, there's a link over here and a version which is version 4.0, which means that this specific XML isn't just a draft invoice, but is the full package that is using NF-e and CFA's authorization protocols. So these protocols are commonly used by the Brazil's Receita Federal Tax Authority. Again, you're seeing how attackers are using legitimate organizations in order to fool victims into believing that this is a legitimate generated invoice. So if we scroll down, we've seen the version that it's using is version 4.0, and this version has been in production since 2017. So that's what Brazil's Receita Federal Tax Authority have been using to generate these schemas. So if we scroll down again, we can see NF-e over here, which is the core invoice block. And in this scenario, the duplicate namespace declaration is normal, and it ensures that the downstream parsers know that they are working with the official CFA's definitions. So again, we talked about CFA's and how it's related to the Brazil's Receita Federal Tax Authority, and we know that the CFA's is the authorization protocol. So they're also using the legitimate authorization protocol in order to share the generated invoice. If we scroll down, we have the INF-e version, which is version 4.0. So this is the main container of the invoice metadata, INF-e. And as you can see, it's still using the same schema version, which is 4.0. And we have a unique ID over here. So this is a unique NF-e access key that is used by Chave de Acceso. If we scroll down, we can see the giant number, which starts with 31 from the ID. So 31 is the UF code, which means Minas Gerais. Then we have 2507, which is the date, year and month. So the format is a year/month. Then we have 4160, let me just highlight it over here, 4160 56 23 0001. So this section represents the CNPJ of the issuer. So again, they're also using the legitimate CNPJ. Then we have 55, which is the model, and 55 is the standard NF-e. Then we have 001, which is the series. Then we have 000021. Let me just highlight it. So this represents the invoice number. Then the last digit is 9, which validates the key. So basically what we're seeing here is an invoice fingerprinting that is normally used if you type into the CFA's portal to confirm authenticity. So not only are they using the legitimate authorization protocol, they're also using the legitimate invoice fingerprint from the CFA's portal. Again, this is the portal that is normally used by the Brazilian Federal Tax Authority. So basically for the first section is a snippet of the header and the invoice identity block. So the section that we're talking about is this section over here, and it establishes that this is an official Brazilian NF-e schema version 4.0, and the unique tax ID key is tied to the CNPJ 41, that is 41,605,63,000,175 in Minas Gerais. Going back now, we're going to start analyzing this specific XML, and we have the idle section over here. So this is the header section, and for this header section, we can say for the first section over here, it's also written in Brazilian. So it says that this is a sale of goods that is labeled by this name, issued on this specific date, from the invoice number 21, and series is series 1. So we have the invoice number, the series number, the sale of the goods, and it's generated using Bling 1.1. So Bling 1.1 is a legitimate Brazilian ERP invoicing software. So these guys are falling victims into believing that they've already received the rewards, and once they receive the rewards, this specific email is going to generate an invoice that mimics the Brazilian ERP invoicing software, and they're using the legitimate authorization protocols in order to verify its authenticity. So if we scroll down, we have the emit section over here. So we've already analyzed the header section. So the second section is the emit section, which is the issuer. So we have the first section over here, which gives the details of the company that is registered under the CNPJ 41,6056,23,000,175, and the company name is named as Barbara Onesca Diaz Hobna. Sorry for the pronunciation, but Brazilian is not good. So this is the name for the company. Then we have the address. So let me just expand on that. So the address is AV Dutoit Rubens Boechat de Oliveira. We have the number 311 up to 101. So basically this section gives you the address section. This is the name for the company, and this is the legitimate CNPJ for the company. Then we have their phone number over here. So we've analyzed the header and the issuer section. So the next section is the destination, which is the recipient. And as you can see, the recipient is an individual with a CPF number 147,43,288,738, and the recipient's name is Aline Carla Amorim Raida. Then we have the address details over here. So Evi Natal Rodriguez Pereira, address number 311, apartment number 102, and so on and so forth. Then we have the phone number, which is this one over here, and obviously the location of the country, Brazil. If we scroll down, we have the product details that starts from date over here. Let me just highlight it. So we have our product, and as you can see guys, for the product details we have the item that is called Cabides, this name over here, and we have the quantity. So for the quantity we have around 10 units, and each is sold for 3.50, which is in Brazilian currency. So you'll have to confirm the Brazilian currency. So 3.5. Then from the imposter section we have the taxes section over here. So we have the ICMS, we have the PIS, and we also have the coffins, which is properly documented, and the approximation is shown to be 12.5, which is the total tax burden over here. Then you have the PAG section over here, which is the payment section, and the payment method that is used is a credit card, which is charged $35 in Brazilian currency. So we've talked about the payment section and the charges, which is in Brazilian real currency, 35. Then if you go down, we have the technical intermediary section over here, and as you can see, the technical intermediary is using the CNPJ number 21 34 51 39 000 147 and is registered under this specific email. And if we scroll down, we have the digital signature, and again, most hackers normally use verified digital signatures in order to fool victims into believing that these documents are coming from a legitimate sender. So if you remember guys, this is a payroll invoice generator, and in most cases these hackers are using this specific invoice generator in order to fool victims once they receive the reward. And as you can see from the signature over here, this signature is signed with an ICP Brazil certificate, which means it's a valid signature. And if we scroll down, we have the authorization section over here, and again it's using the schema version 4.0. Let me just expand this. So it's using the schema version 4.0, and from the status code, which is status 100, you can see that this invoice is authorized by the SAFER's Brazilian tax authority. So just to give you a summary, the hackers are most likely using a legal document that is verified by the Brazilian tax authority to generate invoice, and the delivery vector that is used to deliver malware for the victims can be in the form of documents that have malicious embedded macros, PDF documents in our case. So as you can see guys, we have a PDF document, and it depends on how this specific invoice is generated. So this might not be the invoice, maybe a separate PDF document, and we may have a separate invoice document that is generated. So this is a common trick which is meant to deliver the XML, and gives you a viewer, and once you open the viewer to check the XML document and generate the invoice, then the invoice might have malware embedded in it. So that's it for our first attachment, which is the XML file. And if you check the other file, which is a PDF document, we can see that this PDF document is corrupted, or it's encrypted using a password protection, and most likely they're using this PDF document which has malware embedded in it in order to infect the host's system. So let's begin by using our first tool for the analysis of the email header. And for the first tool that we're going to use, it's called MX Toolbox, and it has an email header parser that analyzes any suspicious emails, and it will also flag any suspicious details that we'll get. So in order to extract your email header, what you normally do is click on the 3 dotted lines over here, and in our case we are analyzing a suspicious email that landed in our Gmail inbox. So the mail user agent that we're using is Gmail. So in order to extract the headers, you click show original, then it give you details about the email header and the message header, and as you can see, the SPF and the DKIM and DMARC signatures are set to pass, and we've already explained this, and I showed you guys why these methods are set to pass and why it's flagged and showing as pass. So in most cases you might find other suspicious phishing emails that are crafted by hackers to have failed SPF or DKIM signatures, and in most cases, if the hacker is sophisticated enough to bypass the SPF, DKIM and DMARC signatures, then the most likely this email will not land in spam and will be delivered on the email box of the user and will not be flagged by most security systems. So we've seen the techniques on how these hackers have used in order to bypass most of the security detections by the email security softwares that are used. So then again, just to remind you, all SPF, DKIM and DMARC are set to pass. So we copy this to clipboard and we paste it over here. What you normally do when extracting the receiving header is click on the button copy to clipboard, then paste it on the email header analyzer, then click analyze header. So this is our first tool, which is called MX Toolbox, and as you can see, the first hop is from bling.com. Again, this is the legitimate domain that is used, and then again we say that if it's coming from a legitimate domain, then it most likely won't be flagged because bling.com is a legitimate sender. So we have the second ERP provider, which is sender.bling.com. Again, this is a legitimate ERP sender and it's not flagged by MX Toolbox. So you can see the DMARC version over here, and the RUA is mailed to post.master@bling.com. Again, they're using the ERP bling.com to deliver the email. The only flag that we have is for the DKIM signature. And as you can see, the DKIM public record that is given from the ERP sender bling.com doesn't match the DKIM signature that is used in our email, and that's why it's flagged. We've seen that this is not a legitimate email that is normally used by Deeper Network, and we've seen some of the emails that are used. We've checked the mailer. So MX Toolbox also gives you a basic structure similar to SysTools EML Viewer, the tool that we're using before, and it breaks down the headers, gives you details about the return path, the receiving SPF. So for the return path, we've seen this is also a flag. We've seen the MIME version. So remember, this is used when media files are attached in emails, and we've checked the attachment and seen that there's an XML file and a PDF file, which are both suspicious. And right here we have details of the receiving header. So MX Toolbox only flags the DMARC signatures, the DKIM signature, sorry. But aside from that, the rest of the details are only broken down and given to you in the output shown here. So we're going to switch to another tool. We'll do a search on DKIM. So it's called DKIM Email Header Analyzer, which is more so similar to MX Toolbox, but gives you a different result in terms of analyzing and breaking down email headers. So we'll look for DKIM. And similar to what we did with the MX Toolbox, we'll copy the email header, then we'll paste it on DKIM, and we'll analyze the headers. So then again, DKIM gives you all the headers and gives you a breakdown. So let me just open MX Toolbox on a different page. So we can do a comparison on the results. MX Toolbox Email Header Analyzer. And we'll paste our email, analyze the header. And as you can see, we have the same number of headers found. We have the received SPF similar to what MX Toolbox gave us. We've seen that Bling.com is a legitimate ERP sender, but is not related to Deeper Network and some of the mail servers that they normally use. So just go back to some of the mail servers that are used by Deeper Network. You can do a domain lookup. And remember guys, the original domain that is associated with the Deeper Network, let me just search it so that you guys can see, is deeper.network. So if you do a search on deeper.network like we did before, we can see some of the mail servers that are used. So we have a total of 5 mail servers that are used by Deeper Network. So back again, we start checking. We've already compared some of the headers found. We've analyzed the headers. We've seen the mailer that is used. So this is the mailer. So if you want to check the mailer that was used, it's PHP mailer, and they have the original GitHub repository for PHP mailer. Just see if it loads. So the hacker most likely used this PHP mailer to create email and transfer the emails. So back again at DKIM, we have the receiving headers. And for the first receiving header, again DKIM normally breaks down the receiving header from bottom to up. So if you want to check the first entry, it's from the bottom. Then it also flags any suspicious details that are related to the email header. And as you can see, we have 3 warnings over here. The sender bling.com.br, and the host name are determined by the mail server are different. We have an invalid host name over here. Then again, we've seen some of the mail servers that are normally used by Deeper Network. We've seen the IP address that is used for the sender. We have the public IP address and a local IP address. So they come to try and check the location and IP address that is associated with this sender. And we'll analyze this IP address and extract more details from it. So we have flagged receiving headers. We have the flag domain. bling.com, and we've seen how DKIM breaks down these headers and verifies the authenticity of these emails. So this just breaks down the whole email header, gives you a delivery. So this was my email. We have the X headers, we have the return path, the SPF, DKIM filter, signature that is used, the MIME version, and the encoding method. So remember guys, we've extracted the email that we've already analyzed all the receiving headers and the message headers, and right now we'll try and verify the authenticity of the email provided in our message header. So remember, we've already checked Deeper Network website and we've seen that this email is not used by Deeper Network support team to address their customers, so it's most likely a suspicious email. But in order to verify the authenticity of this email, we're going to use Hunter.io. So it's an email verifier tool, and we'll paste this email and see the results that we'll get. Go back to Hunter.io, and we've tried to verify this specific email, and as you can see, Hunter.io gives us the results that this specific email is invalid and it's not commonly used to receive emails. So we know now that this specific email that is used is invalid. The other tool that we're going to use to verify the authenticity of our email is Zero Bounce. And again, similar to what we did on Hunter, we try and verify this email. And as you can see, it's an invalid email, and it has no details in terms of MX records that are associated with this email. The final step to do now is to try and verify the IP address that originated from the first sender. And remember, from DKIM, I showed you guys, if you're analyzing the receiving headers, then the fourth entry is the first line, and the third entry is the second line. And from the second line, we can see that the IP address of our sender is this IP address. So you can do an IP lookup from iplocation.net. You can also do it from Whois domain tools. So the details that we got over here is this IP address is originating from United States. We have the region over here. We have the ISP provider. And similar to what we got from IP address lookup, we're also getting the origin name and the location that is related to that specific IP address. So since this IP address is registered to the United States, what we'll do is we'll try and check it in some of the registry sites for IP addresses, and we're going to use the American Registry for Internet Numbers, which is ARIN, so we can get other details. So we'll search for arin.net, and in most cases it depends on the location that is associated with that specific address, because we have different registry sites like Afrinic, that is used in Africa, stands for Africa Network Information Center. We have the Asia Pacific Network Information Center, APNIC. We also have the Latin American and Caribbean Network Information Center, which is the LACNIC. We have the RISOX IP European Network Coordination Center, which is RIPE. So since our IP is located in the USA, we're going to use RIN to do the lookup. So give it some time to complete the search. And as you can see, this IP is associated with Amazon technology. We have the address over here. We have the time for the registration, which was on December 2011. It was last changed on Wednesday, January 2024. So those are the details that we got from RIN. So these are the details that we got in terms of the IP that is associated with the sender server. We have the details of the location, the name of the ISP provider that is used from Amazon, the ASN number. We have the resolved host, which is linked to our sender bling.com, which was used as the ERP to send this specific email. And there we have it, guys. And maybe just to check, we also have another IP address over here. So we have the sender and we have the last entry before it's sent to the mail delivery agent. So let's just check this IP address and see the details that we'll get. So it's most likely using Cloudflare protection. So this is not the actual IP address of the attacker, but it's associated with Cloudflare protection, and it's most likely being used by bling.com. Remember, guys, we said that bling.com is a legitimate domain, so they might be using Cloudflare as a security measure for their domain. So there we have it, guys. I've showed you guys how to analyze, extract the headers, how to verify the authenticity of emails, how to extract the IPs, how to trace the location based on the sender email server that is used. And this completes our video on email forensics. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop it in the comment section, and see you guys in the next one.